This is Bedtime Stories, Collateral Damage, Part 2. When we left off, Donovan was in Puerto Rico. Maribel was missing, and her chauffeured car had been ambushed. When Donovan reviewed the security footage at her estate, he picked up on some interesting clues. Donovan said to the security officer, "Freeze it right there." "What's that?" On the man's arm. When Maribel was taken from her car to the getaway car, there was a man in the back seat. All that was seen on the camera was his arm, and on it was a very interesting tattoo. The security guard said, "It looks like a scorpion." Donovan took a picture of the screen with his cell phone, and then he turned around and showed it to Manny, who was quietly waiting in the background. Donovan said, "Look familiar?" Manny said, "It does. That's Miguel." Miguel was Maribel's ex-boyfriend. She told Donovan all about him. Miguel was a local businessman and an undercover gangster. Maribel cut ties with Miguel as soon as she realized that he was in the life and he wanted more than Maribel could give. She was looking for a good time and he was trying to capture her heart. Miguel had a hard time accepting no for an answer. When he found out that Maribel would be living and working on the mainland for most of the year, he was pissed. He'd done everything in his power to get that woman to want him the way he wanted her. And he decided if he couldn't have her, she wouldn't have anything. Unfortunately, he wasn't smart enough to check the file first. So Manny told Donovan, "I'll handle this. You go ahead and head back to the mainland and I'll have her call you when I have her." Donovan said, "Say what? This nigga got my girl and you think I'm going back home?" And he said, "Listen, I don't want to have to explain to your mommy and poppy." Donovan said, "I'm a grown man. You ain't got to explain nothing to my parents. I got that." Manny said, "No, I'm responsible for you. I don't want anything to happen to you, and I don't want to have to go back to them and tell them that I let you handle something that I could handle without blinking an eye." Donovan said, "Either we do this together, or I'm going out on my own. But I'm not sitting by and waiting for you to handle a damn thing." Now, what's the plan? When Manny refused to clue Donovan in on how he planned to handle the situation with Miguel and get Maribel back, Donovan said, "Don't worry about it. I need a ride. Drop me off." Manny looked at his driver and said, "Take him wherever he wants to go. Drop him off and come back." In the car, Donovan got on his phone, did a quick search, and told the driver, "Take me to the Yamaha dealership." When they pulled up, a salesman walked up to Donovan, excited for the opportunity to make a sale. Before he could even get into his spiel, Donovan said, "Let me see your YZFs, preferably a R1M." Donovan had his eye on one of the fastest motorcycles on the market. And in less than an hour, he left the dealership in all black riding gear on a bike that goes from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, traveling at the outermost limits of the law at 185 miles per hour. Donovan's plan was to get around the island quickly and to get in spaces that a car wouldn't take him, and to remain virtually unseen while he did it. Donovan knew very little about Miguel, but he knew he could fill in the blanks. When he rode back to Maribel's estate, Manny and his men were gone, and he took that time to question all of Maribel's staff. He found out everything he needed to know about the low-level gangster, who he be with, where he be at, and where he'd be most likely to be right then. Donovan rode around the island to all of the spots that Maribel's staff provided him, looking for the car that transported her from the scene of the kidnapping. Eventually, he rode by Miguel's warehouse, the place where he apparently handled all of his criminal activity. The highly secure facility was covered in cameras. Across from the warehouse was Sierra de Calle, the southeastern sub-range of the Cordillera Central, or the Central Mountain Range. Donovan drove into Sierra de Calle, stashed his bike, his helmet, and his jacket, and threw on his pack. Before he began his surveillance mission, he stopped at the hotel and loaded up his newly acquired riding pack with all of the instruments of war that he would need. Donovan came to Puerto Rico prepared. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was no way that Manny was going to give him his blessing to continue pursuing his daughter without a war, without some dangerous situation that will require Donovan to show what he was made of. So when he left the mainland, flying one of his Uncle Artemis's private planes, he had 2 bags, one with his clothes and one with his tools. See, the de facto baby boy of the St. James family is most well known for being a comedian. for being a ladies' man, and for not being wrapped too tight. But underneath all of that is a highly intelligent, highly skilled grown man, fully capable of protecting himself and the ones he loves. He got it honest. It's in his DNA, and he was trained by the best. While Pops Andy and the Queen Mother never wanted their children to be in that life, they knew that it was paramount that their children had the skills necessary to protect themselves, defend themselves, keep themselves safe, and be on the offense instead of the defense. If nothing else, life would put them in positions where they'd have to show what they couldn't tell. And whether they wanted it to or not, the criminal element would always be a part of their lives. As Donovan trucks it through the woods on foot at 4 a.m., he makes that phone call to Pops Andy to let him know what he's hitting for. When he arrives, he lays low and surveys the area. He identifies 12 men who are on guard, and behind the warehouse is the vehicle that took Maribel away from the scene of the kidnapping. Donovan, who's skilled in boxing, jiu-jitsu, and mixed martial arts, is prepared to use hand-to-hand combat to take out each of the men one by one, avoiding using the firepower that he's packing in his backpack so as not to alert anyone who doesn't already know he's on the scene. But in that pack, he also has garrots, zip ties, shuriken or ninja stars, stun guns, and more. Now, I'll spare you the gruesome details in the interest of time. But Donovan made quick work of the 6 men responsible for securing the outside of the warehouse using his hands and the tools in his goodie bag. At the back door, he used a shuriken to take out the guard responsible for guarding the entrance. Recognizing that his time and the advantage that he'd gained with the element of surprise were both quickly running out, Donovan immediately made his way to the catwalk and, using one of the Queen Mother's moves, laid flat on his belly, pulled the firearm from his pack, attached a scope, and took a shot at one of the windows on the other side of the warehouse, drawing the attention of the 5 remaining guards. He then took out one of the men who went to investigate the shattering glass, and the second man who was making his way to the steps leading up to the catwalk. Then he waited. There were 3 men remaining. When only 2 men came to investigate it, he knew where the 3rd man was. He was stationed as a lookout for wherever Miguel was holding Maribel. When the 2 men had their backs to the catwalk, Donovan quietly and stealthily repacked his pack, took position, jumped off the catwalk, and landed onto both of their backs. Quickly breaking the neck of one of the men with his bare hands, he rolled over, grabbed the second man, and bent his arm into an unnatural position, bound to leave him disabled for life. Donovan whispered in his ear, "Tell me where she is, and take me to her now, if you want to save this arm and your life." Recognizing that he had very little choice and wanting to save both his life and his arm, the man quietly relented and slowly led Donovan to a room hidden in the back of the first level of the warehouse. The man somehow thought he could outsmart Donovan and tried to just walk around the corner. But Donovan wrenched that arm into a position that made that man come to a complete and total stop. Wrapping his free hand around the man's mouth so that he couldn't make a sound, Donovan said, "You want to live? Don't play with me. Don't make a move that I don't tell you to. Understand?" Positioning his body so that the man provided him with coverage, Donovan slowly led the man around the corner and out into the open. When the last guard spotted his man, he was confused. He said, "Luis, ¿estás haciendo aquí? Debes estar al frente." When Donovan stepped out from behind Luis, still holding the man's arm in position, the final guard lowered his pistol. Donovan said, "No lo hagas." Then, faster than the man could blink, Donovan switched hands, resecuring the man's arm in position, disarmed him by removing his pistol from his hip, and took one shot, dead on, hitting the guard standing in front of the door square in the chest. Then he took out the man whose arm he was holding with one shot to the head, using his own gun. Donovan immediately kicks the door in, and then he takes cover. He assumes correctly that Miguel can see out in this hallway, so he knows that his 2 guards are dead men. And as soon as the door flies open, gunshots erupt from inside. Donovan's trained ear recognizes that Miguel is shooting a 9mm. So when he runs out of bullets, right before he can reload, Donovan jumps through the doorway. 40 cal, fully loaded in hand, he says, "Don't even think about it." Sitting on the couch is Maribel, perfectly fine, pissed as hell, and looking bored. Donovan says, "You good, sunshine?" Maribel says, "I am." Then he turns his sights to Miguel and says in Spanish, "What made you think you could get away with this, nigga?" As Donovan walks over to the desk where Miguel is attempting to get another clip, he says, "Put the gun down. Step away from the desk." Miguel slowly follows his instructions, walking around the desk while saying, "So, is he the real reason why you move into the mainland?" Donovan said, "Whatever answers you didn't get before I got here, you won't get now. And whatever answers you did get, you'll be taken with you to the grave." And before Donovan could pull the trigger, his nose was filled with the Issey Miyagi cologne. Walking in the door behind him was Manny. What Donovan didn't know is that Immanuel Lopez and his men were well hidden in the background. They'd been there, waiting on Donovan. Manny says, "So, Miguel here is the reason why that doctor almost killed Angela. He didn't know that Angela was my niece. He didn't even know that Maribel was my daughter." With those words, Miguel turned a weird pale green color because he knew his number was up. And he said, "You thought you could sabotage Maribel's efforts on the mainland, and then she'd have no other choice but to come back to the island in shame. When that didn't work, you devised this little plan." Then Manny looked at Maribel and said, "Mija, why didn't you tell me that Miguel was harassing you? You know I would have handled this before it got this far." Maribel said, "Papi, I thought he took the hint. I ended things with him months ago. The real question is, why didn't you tell me that I was in danger?" Manny said, "You were never really in danger. I mean, look at him. And you should know, you're always in danger. I typically handle these things before you even know about them. But I expect that if you recognize a threat, you'll let me know so I can handle it. There's no need for you to handle things yourself or to put up with unwanted attention, because then things like this happen." Donovan said, "So you was walking me into a trap?" Manny said, "No, I was letting you handle it. And if you couldn't, I would. You want to be her man? Her problems are your problems now. And anything you can't handle, I will. Now get my daughter out of here, and I'll clean up this mess." Meanwhile, in Dallas, Angela's preparing to go visit MomBrenda in the hospital. She's decided to take the tablet that Melissa used to use when she was dealing with selective mutism to allow MomBrenda to better communicate with her visitors. When she arrives, MomBrenda is awake and happy to see her. As they converse, she tells Angela that she needs to see the following people: the Queen Mother, Stephanie, Pastor Corey, Regina, LJ, and Donovan. Angela says, "The Queen Mother is in the family waiting room, and I'll have Q bring the kids after school. You want him to bring all the kids?" When MomBrenda nods yes, Angela says, "Now Donovan's out of town on business, so I'll let him know when he comes back." When the Queen Mother comes in, her and MomBrenda are all tears and smiles and congratulating one another on a job well done. The Queen Mother catches MomBrenda up on all of the happenings in the family, and when she gets to the whole situation with Veronica, her legal case, the breakup with Donovan, and his pursuit of Maribel, MomBrenda again asks to see Donovan. When the Queen Mother says, "Donovan is in Puerto Rico pursuing Maribel, but I'll let him know as soon as he gets back." Then MomBrenda asks to see Veronica. Queen Mother says, "She picked up baby Bella and baby Chance this morning, but let me call her." When the Queen Mother calls Veronica, she gets no answer, but she says, "That's not unusual. It can be difficult to get to the phone when you're chasing around them two toddlers. Them kids are a mess." The two close friends pray together, and then the Queen Mother lets her know that she needs to get Angela back to the house because Angela has a meeting with Miss Bernie. Now, if you watch the final episode of Season 8, Queenpin, then you know how that meeting with Angela and Miss Bernie went. During the virtual meeting, Miss Bernie tried to check Angela for firing Rennie without talking to her about it first. Then she took unsolicited digs at Donovan, and Angela got her in all the way together. When Miss Bernie found out that Donovan had given Veronica $500,000, she was shocked and singing a whole new song. She quickly let Angela know that Veronica had left town with baby Bella. And then Angela let her know that Veronica had baby Chance too. Angela said, "Oh my God, How am I going to tell Donovan this? How am I going to tell the Queen Mother? Miss Bernie said, oh my God, Angela, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Angela said, if you're not in on whatever the hell Veronica is up to, I'm going to need you to prove it.